I started doing these lives to just share information with people around a variety of topics because I have so many friends with expertise in a variety of fields that I thought it would be good to introduce folks to my community of friends and my network. Last week, we had my friend Rob on. Was like a brother to me. He even talked about cybersecurity. He owns a cybersecurity firm, works with the government, and he's also a minister, right? And so, and as you know, his story is in the book. So, we've had Rudy on and Joe to talk about community development. And I figured this is a good time of year to have you on to talk about some mental health things and to also talk about I wish my dad. Uh,
Mhm.
so before we jump in, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. Thank you always for the invitation, Ramal. I'm always excited to talk about I Wish My Dad. I am a social entrepreneur. I own a mental health boutique and I offer individual, couples, and family counseling. I also have created a trauma-informed curriculum called Belonging for nonprofits and for-profits to support these entities in creating cultures of belonging in their workspaces, given the various contexts that they're in. And I'm in a space now where I am revamping how I do things in terms of kind and looking at relaunching some things next year. So in short, I am a healer and a thought
Yeah.
leader. Yeah.
Being kind consulting your company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, let's jump right into it. This time of year, it's time of celebration. We're celebrating Christmas. We're going into the new year. People are celebrating Kwanzaa, and for many people, it's a festive time.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be with family. A lot of travel. People sharing their photos on social media of their families and their matching pajamas and everybody showing a picture of their plate on the internet. But the beauty of that is great to see families coming together. It's great to see community. And we don't get to see that all year long. We have these rhythms of holidays.
Mm.
But with that are people who are triggered by the holidays for a variety of reasons. For some, it's the first Christmas without a loved one who they lost. For some, it's the first Christmas without someone they were in a relationship with. For some, it's a memory of family that they really don't go home to see because of, complicated family dynamics.
Hmm.
And they're not, and that's a lot of people who are not sharing those stories online, but are dealing with life dynamics and that are oftentimes difficult. And so I thought it would be important to just share with people from a professional therapist perspective, some ways that people can, be healthy and cope, do more than cope through the holidays. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. And I don't think we talk enough about the people who struggle doing these rhythms of holiday, as you have named it. I think it's really important to express where you are and how you're feeling. I feel like depression often comes from when we suppress things. And so I think a counter narrative to suppressing things is to express them, whether you're expressing them in your journal, whether you are inviting trusted others in to those pain points so you aren't isolated, so you're not alone. I think it's important to have your own personal advisory team, so to speak. People who see you and value you and honor where you are at all times and aren't necessarily trying to shift you out of where you are, but simply to hold space where you are. I think that makes a difference because people have their ways and their processes of grieving, and all of our ways of grieving look different. And so it's important to make room for how we grieve and try to practice vulnerability if you can, because I promise you, like you said, it's not just one person that is experiencing a loss, a challenging situation during the holidays. It's many of us. And so I think that when we're expressing vulnerable about where we are, when we are experiencing that, we can be surprised at the community that form around us because we're willing to be honest about who we are.
Your connection, Kendra, is a little.
Can you hear better?
No.
No.
You're a little frozen.
No. Am I still frozen?
Yeah. Okay. Now you're not.
Is that
you're
better?
back.
What
Yeah.
part did you hear or not hear?
Probably the last 30 seconds.
Gotcha. I was just saying that it's important to be vulnerable and express where you are because you never know what community you can draw to you when you need it, when you're able to be honest.
Yeah, and I want to come back. You mentioned a number of things that people can do. You said journaling, and you also mentioned people that, someone you can talk to or a community of people. But I want to dig into that a little bit more. So if I am someone who is having challenges during the holidays and I'm journaling, like what do I write? Like, where do I start?
That's a great question. And I don't think you have to have a particular thing. Free write it. Start with where you are. If you don't feel like writing, but you are pushing yourself to write, start out the journal by saying, I don't feel like writing, and I don't feel like writing because of X, Y, and Z. I think it's also important to get out and get some fresh air. We can get so comfortable in our own isolation and withdrawal in our homes, where we're not being seen by others nor by ourselves, but at least let creation see you. Because I do believe that creation is waiting to give us the medicine that it has. Go outside, touch the earth, smell the air, allow the sunshine to beam on your skin. I think it's important also, and not only for the people that are experiencing grief through this season, but for all of us, just when it comes to fortifying our mental health, to go and play. I took an opportunity last week to swing with a loved one of mine on a playground, a random opportunity to go and play. And we swung on that swing for about a good 10 minutes. And that allowed us to get some laughter in. I think that when I'm in places of sadness, I do things intentionally to laugh. I love comedy. I love comedians. So I'm going to find a comedian that I rock with to support me in engaging in some laughter. Also, practicing deep breathing. I don't think we recognize how much we don't breathe. I read somewhere that we only use about 33% of our respiratory systems. So that tells me that we are not breathing enough. And when we take deep breaths, it oxygenates our brain cells so we can stop and pause. Like you said, we get caught up in the rhythm of the holiday season, and we can get so busy in doing things, getting gifts, making sure that people are taken care of, whatever else is on your to-do list for the holidays, that we can forget about ourselves. So taking a moment of pause, a moment of stillness, is really important. And you know how important ritual is to me, Ramal. And that ritual is something that I try to practice daily. And it could be a ritual that looks like daily prayer for you. It could be a ritual that looks like a 30-minute or 10-minute or 2-minute meditation. Whatever that ritual is, practice it and get in the habit of giving yourself that medicine, because it does matter. I know how my day unfolds when I just get up out of the bed and I don't do anything. And I know how my day feels when I am intentional about doing those things that I know bring me wholeness.
Yeah, I think journaling, I like the idea of just journaling what you're really thinking and feeling in that moment, even if it starts with, I don't feel like journaling right now.
Right.
Just, and you will continue to let it flow from you in a genuine place.
Mm-hmm.
And then, right, oftentimes journaling really is about just being honest with what you're feeling, being honest with what you are grateful for, what you're sad about, what you're angry about, just the honesty of writing it down. And I also find, you mentioned rhythms. For me, one of my daily rhythms is gratitude, especially in this season. This is a season where I don't go to see family. My kids are grown. But it's such a rhythm now for me, like, and I'm an introvert. So being alone is actually a gift for me. Like, I'm grateful for still
Good.
and not having to be engaged with people oftentimes. And I get to choose when I want to be around friends.
Mhm.
But gratitude is something I do daily. I always tell people my feet don't touch the ground in the morning before I say thank you.
That's good.
And it's not just thank you for the day, but it's a thank you in anticipation of any good that's going to
Mhm.
come. And thank you in anticipation of any challenge that I overcome today.
I love
So
it.
posture of gratitude, and I'm ready for whatever comes because one, I'm anticipating the good, and I'm also anticipating overcoming any challenge. But I'm
Mhm.
not trying to um, prevent anything that life is bringing to me, but being full
Mhm.
to any and all experiences, because with the good, I'm blessed for what comes, and with any challenge, I'm grateful for the wisdom on the other
I
side.
love that.
Right?
I love that. You talking good, Ramon.
Yeah, I mean,
Anticipating good.
yeah, anticipating
Yeah,
good and with anticipating the wisdom on the lesson of the other side.
absolutely.
So I think journaling is definitely helpful for people, but you also mentioned like having someone you can talk to or a community of people. We hear that often, but the questions sometimes I get from people is, well, how do you start that conversation? Like, how do you lay the groundwork for what you actually need from people?
Hmm. That is a great question. And I think sometimes we can get in our heads about how people are going to respond to how it is that we're feeling. And it is difficult to let go of caring about how people are going to perceive you because you're naming whether that's a mental health vulnerability, whether that is a challenge. I would say that it is important, even if you are reaching out to, there's a thing such as crisis text line. The crisis text line number is 741-741. You would get access to a crisis counselor when you text that number. Now, this is a stranger, right? There is a pastoral care image of the intimate stranger. It names that sometimes strangers can open up a space of 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 opportunity for us to share because we don't know them. So that's an option if you feel like the people around you can't hold space for you, or the people around you can't support you in the ways that you need. The other side of that coin, if you aren't interested in talking to somebody that is anonymous, is to build up the courage just within yourself to name it. I like to do mirror work with people. If you can't reach out to loved ones externally, reach out to yourself. Look in the mirror and tell yourself what is happening and what is going on. Look, Kendra, this is what I'm feeling right now. I don't know who I can talk to, but I know that I can talk to you. And I know that I can hold space for you. And so if it's just you talking to yourself, doing some mirror work, do that first. Even if tears start to come, fight through the tears and continue to talk. I do that for myself in addition to going to seek supported loved ones. But I think it's important for us to build an internal reservoir of belonging as we seek outside of ourselves to belong. I think the first belonging starts with us.
Man, that is so good. And I was smiling because several years ago, probably more like 8 or 9 years ago, I was having a conversation with Juanita Rasmus, who's one of my, spiritual advisors, if you will. And I was going through some real challenges around my childhood trauma and how it was showing up and creating anxiety about where I was, and really feeling unsafe around the security, specifically around, am I going to be okay? And she had me do some mirroring exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do it every now and then just to affirm myself. And that exercise, she said to me every morning for the next, few weeks, she said, I want you to stand in the mirror and just look at yourself and say, you're okay. I'll take care of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She said, when you do that, when you say, you're okay, I'll take care of you, and I love you, you're speaking to that part of you, that inner wounded
Yeah.
child who's afraid, and affirming for yourself that as the adult version of you,
Mm-hmm.
able to take care of yourself, and you're able to give yourself the love that you've always wanted. And so I found exercise like really helpful, to stand there and just simply say to myself, "You're okay. I'll take care of you, and I love you."
I love that. Inner child work is so important, and I don't think we name it enough. And I think that your the book, I Wish My Dad, really does a lot of good invitations for people to do some inner child work. Thank you for naming that.
Yeah, and I think that with the holidays, that some of that childhood stuff comes up for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know for me, Christmas growing up in the hood was not always great. Like there was not always money for
Mm-hmm.
gifts, right? And there was the sadness of knowing that I wasn't going to get something because I knew my mom just didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then there was the sadness of her being sad that she could not do it, right?
Mm.
And the memories of those holidays, those Christmas mornings where there just wasn't much,
Yeah.
because we didn't have much, but we had each other. Now, as a child, it's hard to associate with like, well, we at least we have each other. Like you want some gifts,
Yeah.
and I found myself as a parent overcompensating with my kids, like just ridiculous amounts of gifts, stuff they never even asked for. And I was really gifting myself
Mm-hmm.
that did not receive what he always
That's
wanted.
good.
But I know for some folks, it's, the memories of the challenges comes up. And so the tools that you've offered, the journaling, having people you can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and clear about with them about what you need from them, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm feeling some kind of way about the holidays. I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling lonely. I don't necessarily need a conversation. I just need your
That's
presence.
it.
Now, is that something you're capable of giving me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the key is, I think, sometimes with building community that cares for us is knowing what we need, asking people for it, but then asking them, are you capable of giving me
Absolutely.
what I need from you, right?
Important.
And then people lives knowing what they're capable of offering, right? Some people are capable of offering presents. Some people are not. They got to talk, right?
Right.
Some people are capable of offering play. Others are not because they're serious, right? They want to just deal with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to offer someone who needs you, and align that with what they actually need.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what you need, there's also the importance of being able to articulate it, right?
Right.
Being clear on what you need, because people will show up, but they may not always show up in ways that you need them. And that's not always their fault. It's also that you didn't communicate exactly what you needed their presence for.
Mm-hmm. I think you named a big one, managing our expectations of how people show up and honoring where people are. I think that for me, I'm in a season of reciprocity. And there are some people that cannot journey with me into this season, and that's okay. And I can't be mad that they, like you said, don't have the capacity to give me what I need. You simply go and find what you need based on the people who can. And I think that negativity bias that we have that's built in often functions in a way that makes us focus on the loss or the lack in our lives instead of what we can have access to. And so I think that that wisdom that you just offered can save a lot of people from a lot of heartbreak.
You said negativity bias. What do you
Yeah. The built-in negativity bias that we have in our brains for protection. So if we were to go outside and see a lion, our brains will say, you need to run, right? We'll go into fight, flight, or freeze mode, but when it comes to the negativity bias, our brains will focus on the negative thing that happens to us rather than the positive things that are going on. I read somewhere that when something negative happens, it takes 10 positive things to occur to make you to make your attention lean away from that negative thing that happened from you. And I think that is often where we lean when negative things happen to us. We will make it the end all be all of who we are and our experiences, when there's so many other things happening around us that will allow us to lean in gratitude if we will choose it. Yeah,
That's really,
well, I think that's why your practice of gratitude is so important.
yeah, that's really good. And it also happens with our thoughts, right?
Yes.
Like you said, that negativity
Mm-hmm.
bias, the negative thoughts that show up. I have a rhythm now that I've had for some years of dealing with negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
A therapist will always tell you, don't try to run from the thought, right? Experience the thought, experience the feelings that come with it so that you can move through it.
Mm-hmm.
Of what I've incorporated into my practice of engaging my negative thoughts is not only will I acknowledge the thought and the feeling that came with it, sometimes I'll whisper to myself, no, thank you. So
Mm-hmm.
I
I
confront,
love that.
like, no, thank you. I don't want to think of it like this. And so it allows me to acknowledge it and confront it in a very intentional way, and then choose to think
That's
differently.
good.
Choose to,
That's good.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To stop a negative thought, I'll start singing to myself, right? I'll start singing a happy song to,
Yeah,
because it can be in a negative thought and sing a happy song at the same time,
it's
right?
true.
So
It's true.
I push my brain to be where I want it to be and my thoughts, right? As
Mm-hmm.
therapist, Warren, he always says, your feelings serve your thoughts and your thoughts serve you.
That's
Yeah,
good.
your
It's
feelings,
true.
your thoughts, and your thoughts serve you. You're not here to serve your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Serve you through how
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, what you think about. Yeah. So
Absolutely. I totally agree. Our thoughts are like our employees. They're gonna do whatever you tell
oh,
them to do.
that's good. Our
Yeah.
thoughts, our employees, they're gonna
Yeah.
tell them to
Yeah.
do. That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Juanita says, in regards to fear on this topic, she says it's a message carrier. That
Mm.
she said you have to view fear as like the mail person is coming to deliver a message. It's coming to take up residence.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, when you are feeling afraid, the question for fear is, what are you here to tell me or teach me? So that you can learn the lesson and then send it on its way. But it's a message carrier, it's not a resident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
And,
Because if you build your tent in that fear, you'll never get the lesson that is coming to teach you, so you can move past it.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. If you build your tent in that fear,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. So you mentioned journaling, you mentioned community and people you can talk to, but you also mentioned going outside for some play and laughter.
Yeah.
You love to laugh, right?
I
And you're
do.
like
We
other people.
both love to laugh.
We do. We do. It just makes you feel good,
It does. It
especially
does.
people who they just have a great laugh. It's just like, it just makes you feel better in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And to play, like you said, you went outside and went on a swing. I got to tell you, one of the things that I did while I was in Nairobi, I went to a mall one day. I was going to a massage market, and Kendra, they had a bounce house. And I was like,
Oh,
look, I'm on sabbatical. I love the bounce house. I've never had one as a kid, and I've always
yes.
been moment. So they had two. And I went over to the guy, I was like, say, man, can grown-ups get in the bounce house? And he was like, not this one, but you could do the other one.
Mm.
And so I went over there, and the guys were sitting at the top, like no kids were there. I was like, yo, can I get in the bounce house? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I got in, and I was in the bounce house doing flips, bouncing around. And people were looking and laughing, but not in laughing. It's like you enjoying yourself,
Right.
live your life,
Right.
I tell you, when I got out, the guys who managed it, who were sitting at the top, they slid down and started bouncing in the bounce.
I love it. I love it. I'm sure you made it look like it was so much fun, because it was.
It was fun. And I think oftentimes as adults, we forget that we still have permission to play.
Absolutely.
At some point in the journey, with all that we have to do as adults, with, you know, life starts life in, and you doing grown up
Mm-hmm.
things with bills and jobs and all of those dynamics, we forget that play is essential to the journey. You know,
Absolutely.
laughter and joy and play should not be sacrificed on the altar of being busy.
Come on now, the altar of being busy.
Yeah.
Is
We sacrifice much of life on the altar of busy, as if busy is this God that determines who you are.
That's good.
It's, you know, it's really idolatry. We worship busy. Oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm just so busy. As if that's to say I'm doing great things.
Right.
No, rest and peace of mind and stillness and laughter and play are a part of living a whole life.
Yes, absolutely. That's holistic
Yeah.
wellness. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Last year, what I did to celebrate my birthday, I just invited some family members and friends to an arcade. And we got in go-karts, we played video games. I mean, all the things. We bowled, and it was fun.
yeah,
Yeah,
play never plays out. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I am with you on that. Please go and play, y'all. If y'all are on here, go and play.
Play go, yeah, please. And laughter, some people will make you laugh. Sometimes I'll dance, like, you know, I'm silly, right?
Yes. And no, I don't think anybody will ever know it unless you named it. That don't know you.
People who know me, who I'm like
Oh,
close
we know.
with,
We know.
I'm so tired, and I'm so cool with it. Like, but it helps, as we're talking about this season of the holidays, being able to go play,
Yeah.
um, you know, being fine, learning to play even while you're by yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll dance, sing, I'll
Mm-hmm.
make laugh, but being comfortable with yourself during
Yeah.
the season is important, and doing things that bring you joy and happiness, be that music
Mm-hmm.
or singing or dancing, whatever that looks like for you. Those engage intentionally, those things that bring you joy um,
Yeah.
during this
I,
season.
I want to go back to something that you said, which I think is really important that we often don't think about. We often think about setting boundaries and telling other people no, but we don't think about telling ourselves no. And so I love that you tell yourself no when you find yourself in that spiral of negative self-talk. And I think we also need to tell ourselves no at times when we're trying to deepen our discipline for the things that we want to do in terms of goal setting and things like that. So I love that practice of telling yourself no. I'm going to start doing
Yeah,
that.
it's a discipline. I heard this Mike Tyson quote. He said, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh, that's
find it,
good. Somebody needs to write that in the
yeah,
chat.
yeah. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. And, you know, I find myself with working out. I'm back in the gym now. And
What?
yeah, you know, I'm getting my swole on again.
I see you.
But I have to approach it like, in those moments I don't feel like it. You know, there's this one athlete, his name is escaping me, but he said the difference between extraordinary people and ordinary people is that extraordinary people do daily what ordinary people do occasionally.
Oh, that's good.
Extraordinary people do daily what ordinary
People
people
do
do. And
occasionally.
that's that
Mm-hmm.
discipline. And pushing yourself to do what you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it so that you
Yeah.
really want.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pivot the conversation to, because you talked about, like, I think you mentioned goals or something like, no, saying
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are transitioning out of one year into a new year, and you know, people will set their New Year's resolutions. Gym memberships are going to go through the roof. People talk what they not going to eat, what they not going to do in terms of how they want to become who they really want to become. And some of that I found in the past that I think it's good to, you know, say, hey, here's what I would like to do in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'm leaving in 2023. But I used to find that it put pressure on me. I was putting this pressure on myself to live into this new agenda for the next year. And at some point, I would not hit the mark, and then I would judge myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some healthy ways that people can go into this new year, leaving behind what they choose to leave behind in 2023, but moving into what they really desire in a healthy way into 2024?
That's a great question. And like you said, a lot of people are going to go in and start making New Year's resolutions. If you are somebody that where goal setting resonates with you, I think it's important to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. Be optimistic about the things that you aspire to do and realistic about the timeline and that you aspire to do it in. I think it's important to make adjustments along the way so you don't get trapped into the default of not meeting or hitting the mark, and then go into this place of complacency. Make adjustments along the way if you need to, and that is okay. I think that it's important to make sure that you are specific about what you desire and do some creative visualization around your goals. If your goal is that you want to go to Fiji next year, not only set aside your financial budget in order to make that happen, but also do a daily practice of creative visualization around seeing yourself at the beach. How are you feeling? What kind of music are you hearing? What kind of people are you meeting along the way? I think those practices are really important. I think it's important too to be patient with yourself along the way. Like you said, don't beat up on yourself if you find that you're not meeting the mark. And when you do meet your mark, because you've been on it for the timeline that you committed to, celebrate yourself. I don't think that we reward and celebrate ourselves enough for the things that we accomplish. One year, this was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, Ramon, I had a acknowledgement party. I had a big blackboard in my house, and I invited people to write down on that blackboard as they entered into the party. I had food, a DJ, and everything, what they wanted to acknowledge and celebrate about themselves for that year. And it was so amazing to see people writing down things that they typically weren't attentive to, and other people being inspired by what they had written down. So I think rewarding yourself is super important. And like you said early on, disrupt your negative self-talk. Whatever mantra you need to create to inspire and motivate yourself, do it. I work with someone who struggles with eating, and one of her sayings is, it's never too late to drink the shake. It's a really simple saying, but it's a mantra that will remind her that it's never too late for me to eat. I can eat right now. So whatever that mantra or saying or affirmation for you is, write it down, put it somewhere where you can see it so you can inspire yourself. And I also think that it's important as you do the acknowledgments to also confront any obstacles or challenges along the way of your goal setting. Acknowledge what your limitations might be, and using your word, acknowledge what capacities you might have. Maybe if you've experienced a lot of activation in your nervous system this last quarter of the year, maybe January is not the month to go full throttle in meeting all your goals. And so I think it's important to be super realistic about what you're trying to attain.
Yeah, I love that. I love acknowledging what do you want to celebrate about you.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important. I think sometimes we have this passive approach to our wins. And, people will say, oh, and you're like, oh, it's no big deal. No, it is a big deal. Embrace that moment to be celebrated and to celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
Often, I don't know where it comes from. I think for some of us, it came through our faith. Like it was something I had to release, this false piety, that I had to let go of. That you were blessed for playing small,
Yeah.
right? But it was okay to applaud people who were great, but you're blessed small. And it was like, no, God did not create me to play small.
Mm-hmm.
I think not for any of us. I think that's for any and everyone listening. God did not create you to play small. God is too big to create people who play small.
Absolutely.
It's okay to celebrate the victories that God has given you and the gifts that you have to make those victories come to pass in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are not in opposition. Like
At
acknowledge the
all.
successes and victories in your life and celebrate you, right? And let people celebrate you. Don't downplay your
Yeah.
victories because
Yeah.
you don't want people to think you're arrogant or something. No,
Yeah.
it's not validation. It's confirmation. Yeah, thank you. I did do a
That's
good job.
good.
That you also saw it, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but that beware of false piety and
Oh,
humility
good.
that people try to wear as a badge of honor, because I think for some people, I want to speak to this as you go into this new year, because some people use false piety and false humility as a
Mm.
reason to not go hard,
Yeah.
right? To
That's
not be,
good, Ramon.
right? You deserve to go out and do great things and be great for God. It's okay,
Mm.
God in it. And you don't be afraid of the hard work that comes with pushing to be all of who you're meant to be in the world. Because
That's
when
good.
you do that, some greatness is going to come out of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Always. As always. And you want to be prepared when you start moving like that for divine surprises, for spirit to show up in ways that are beyond your imagination and beyond your expectation, because you've been obedient, not just to God, but to your goals and what you have desired to do. I think oftentimes, we are putting a lot of the onus on God when God is really just waiting on us to show up.
Yeah, I love divine surprises. I love that language.
Mm,
I love that because I think more people, we need to live in this posture of anticipation of
yeah.
good, right? Um,
Yes.
as we go into this new year, what I find is I journal, and you've been in my office, so you've seen
Mm-hmm.
my
You
my
know.
my
Notes.
visuals, if you will. I
Yeah,
got a financial one.
on
I
the wall.
have where I want to
Yeah,
go, parts I want to see, the toys I want in my life. I want to jet ski, stuff like that. And but whenever there's a victory, I never erase it. And
mm,
you alluded to, I write thank you next
that's
to
good.
it. So whenever I visit a new country, I write thank you next to it. When I
Mm,
achieve a new goal, I write thank you next to it. And I don't erase it, because it also, when I'm challenged and I'm uncertain, I can look and see those previous victories.
that's good. That's good.
So, and I
Yeah.
need I need those in my eyesight to
Mm-hmm.
myself, that victory is possible because I've won before.
Absolutely.
I've achieved the goals before, and I've expressed that gratitude. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a good thing for people to do is express gratitude in anticipation,
That's good.
right? So what I mean by that is, Kendra, I'd love for you to speak to this too, but we live in such a hustle and grind culture
Mm-hmm.
that people, it's highly likely that there are folks who are preparing themselves for the next level of their hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go harder, that whole, sleep when you die, which is absolutely crazy,
It is.
because aspect of science that says sleep is essential to leadership, success, mental health, physical health,
Mhm.
nutrition. Like, you need to get your sleep, or
You do. Thank you for naming that.
right. It is that gangster. It ain't gangster to not sleep.
It's
You
not.
you are hurting your hustle if you're not getting your sleep.
Say it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. You hurt your hustle when you don't get your sleep.
Yeah, you do.
I have a T-shirt that I have that says "Real Men Nap," because I love my
Mm.
nap.
I
Uh,
know that's right. I love
I
that.
love taking my naps. But I think that what I want to say around that hustle mentality is that it creates this pressure. And what I've learned, Kendra, is that healed people don't hustle.
Mm.
Yeah, because when you've done your
Ooh.
work, when you're done your work, or you're doing your work, and you start embracing your worthiness, you realize that there's nothing to chase. And what I found, that in my healing, I'm I'm not as busy as I used to be, because my identity is no longer tied to being busy.
Mhm.
Attainment is not my goal in life, because I know who I am and I
That's
know my,
good.
so I'm not chasing anything with hustling. And I find that in healing, you don't hustle, because you have a deep sense of worthiness that you now live in expectation, right?
It's true.
So when you truly know you're worthy, there's nothing to chase. You're now wanting to slow down so that everything you desire can catch up with you. Because
That's good.
I'm worthy, so I expect good to come to me because I'm worthy of good. I'm open, and as Juanita would say, I'm open and willing to give and receive love. I'm open and willing to give and receive all that God has to come to me so I don't have to chase it. And I think that's a word for a lot of people. Everything that, as my friend Tashawn would say, your dream wants you just as much as you want your dream.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
You don't face it. You just have to believe that you're worthy. As you said, Kendra, set your intentions, write it down, set the intention, do the work, and then live in anticipation. But there's nothing to chase. You are already
Absolutely.
worthy. It's coming
Absolutely.
for you. Just do your work and it's coming.
I totally agree with you. And I think that it's really important to name the difference between chasing and working. We are not saying that you not chasing doesn't mean that you're not working. What we're saying is that when you work, for me, it allows me to detach myself from the anxiety that comes from the chase. Because I was telling a friend of mine, she was asking me about being a social entrepreneur and how I was functioning emotionally, because as an entrepreneur, we don't get paid on the 1st and 15th or 15th and the 30th. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole nother way of operating and really building a different relationship to money. I was telling her that work, effort, intention attracts work and opportunity. And so the more that I am intentional about doing the things that I know I'm called to do, the more people that I don't even know will see me. People that I don't even know are speaking my names in rooms because I am doing the work and I'm not chasing. So I think that's important. Thank you, Ramon.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love that because you're doing the work based because you know who you are. You're not doing the work to become something.
Absolutely. Ooh, not doing the work to become something.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, what you do flows from who you are.
Absolutely.
What you do does not create who you are, right? And so everything that you do, the hard work, you do it because you want to show up with a spirit of excellence. So you want, to work diligent, to work well, and have boundaries around what work hard looks like. So that you still allow yourself to get the rest that you need, the nutrition that you need, the play, the community, the stillness. All of those things are part of being able to show up in excellence and do your work. But you're doing the work to chase something. You do because it's yours to do, and everything that you desire will come for you with clear intentions, right? A lot of people, I find in this season of going into a new year, will set goals for what they want to achieve that year, which is a short-term goal, right? So that goal, I find, should be attached to a longer-term goal. All the activities and achievements of this year add value to that's bigger down the road, right? What's the end game of all this activity, right? And I always tell people to think about your future self, right? And what I mean by that is when you think about your future self, when you visualize who you are 10 years from now, the life that person has, their values, their character, their generosity, what their world looks like, are you doing things today that honors who you desire to become tomorrow?
That's good.
Right? Are you respecting the future you by the choices you make today?
Ooh. You got to practice a good no to yourself, which is what you offer.
Yeah. Practice is your future self looking at you like, why are you acting this way? Why are you thinking this way? Why are you making moves? Like, are you living in such a way that you're honoring the future version of yourself? And I say it that way because we are all becoming, right? And your actions today will determine who you become tomorrow. right? All of
Yes.
it comes with you, right?
Yes.
And that's nothing to be afraid of. That's something to be,
Mm-hmm.
because now you get to live with greater intention in terms of how you show up today because of who you truly desire to be long term.
Absolutely.
It's not like, oh, I need to be careful. Like, no, you need to be excited about
Mm-hmm.
show up in rooms, how you engage in conversations, how you work. You know that tied to who you're becoming.
Absolutely. And I feel like what you're speaking to is really the power of choice. You have a choice in each and every moment to make a different decision that's going to be able to l- allow you to lean into the expansion of your future self. Every moment is a choice, and you can decide to do something different in each moment that speaks to your expansion, your elevation. So I thank you for that wisdom and insight.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm always mindful that in every moment, each of us is leaving behind a story of us.
Mm,
Right? And
mm,
I've decided that I want to live a story worth telling,
that's good.
a story, live a story worth remembering. Right?
Mm, mm, mm.
You know, I tell people, be mindful whenever you show up in conversations and interactions in business or whatever it might be. The moment you walk away, whatever your interaction was, you left behind a story of you.
That's good.
The beauty of knowing that going into any interaction is you get to decide the story you want to leave
That's
behind,
good.
right? Based on how you show up. So it becomes, how am I going to show up in this space that leaves behind a story of me that's worthy of remembering,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Mm,
so it
that's
creates
powerful.
checks and balances such that the room doesn't determine how you show up because you're not a character in their story,
That's
right? You're
good.
playing the lead in your own life. So you get to show up in ways that you're choosing how you want to be remembered.
Mm,
And I think
mm, mm.
be mindful of going into the new year. Like maybe the goal is to live in such a way that you're living a story that's worth remembering.
That's good.
Um, to live with, with joy and treating people well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the biggest things I found after being on sabbatical, living in community with people, is that in some contexts, the most valuable asset is actually the people.
Hmm.
Community comes at a high premium. It doesn't matter what you have, what you do, any of your successes. The value is, can you show up in this space and be fully present with the people around you in
Mm-hmm.
the community?
Mm-hmm.
Because that, that, that,
Mm-hmm.
that's the most valuable asset for us. It
Absolutely.
is actually your presence. There's nothing you can give us that's of greater value than your presence.
Mm-hmm. What's that word? Ubuntu. I am because you are. I think relationship is key, and it is the most valuable gift that we have on the planet. Relationship with each other and relationship to ourselves and to God. So thank you for naming the importance and the richness of community. We don't do this thing alone at all.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think some of the New Year's resolutions is to be more fully present to the people around you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. To really embrace what love and community and connection really looks like without being distracted by the phone or look
Mm-hmm.
the present moment to the next moment of what there is to do, but to just really be still in the presence of community and in conversation with people, and to feel what loving connection is really about, and you realize that that you actually have.
Absolutely. That's good.
So I want to close our last few minutes talking about I Wish My Dad, and
Let's
just
do it.
get your thoughts on, what do you think the value of that book is to readers?
It's so much. And we only got, are we closing out at 9?
Yeah,
We only got 8 more minutes to talk about the value of I Wish My Dad. The power of multiple conversations between fathers and son. The gift, the book is such a gift. And I continue to invite fathers, sons, uncles, husbands, mothers, aunties, daughters to get the book, because each man whose story is told, you tell it with so much integrity, and the emotion I imagine that you experience when you were actually live in the interview is also captured in the writing, which I think is so special. Again, the book is very invitational. The book invites us to go on our own journeys of self-discovery, on our own journeys of healing, on our own journeys of confronting the parts of ourselves that we thought we needed to leave behind because we didn't like that aspect of our story. This book invites us to a level of wholeness that all people need, but particularly people in the African diaspora, when it comes to the levels of trauma that we have experienced over the past centuries, and how it has impacted the way our family systems are structured, how it has impacted the way that we view masculinity, the way that we view femininity, the way that we view roles and responsibilities of men, and the things that we put on men in terms of how we socialize them, where they don't feel like they can have an opportunity to express fully and authentically what they might be experiencing. And that level of pressure is epigenetic. It's passed down through generational lines, and the men in these books are disrupting generational traumas and generational strongholds that prevented their forefathers from being living into the expansiveness that they could have lived into, just because of the societal pressures that they were faced with during the times that they were here on the planet. So this book for me, it was just such a treat to read the stories and to be able to write the takeaways after each story was so brilliantly told by you, Ramal, because each man offered a roadmap that we all can dig into when it comes to vulnerability, transparency, and intentionality of our wholeness and healing. So I am excited that you've been on tour with the book this year. I've been keeping up with the conversations that you've been having, and I'm thrilled that this book is a part of the legacy that you are going to be leaving behind, because it's just so worthy for everybody to have on their bookshelves, regardless of what ethnicity you are, nationality, orientation, class. This book is a tool for mending and reconciling relationships.
Wow, thank you. You answered my other question, because I was wondering, like, the title says Conversations Between Fathers and Sons.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like there's something in here for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not the tools and the lessons are not just for fathers and sons. I think you speak to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Agreed. What have you been finding in this past year, this year of touring the book, people being a bit more familiar with the work? Are they more open? Are you hearing people's stories? What's been happening?
People, there are three big things that I've found. One is that people are very much open, and it's as if men have been waiting for permission to share.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
Created the space through transparency and me sharing at the speaking engagements for people to really show up, share their stories, open up, and do their healing work. And I've realized that they've been waiting for permission to even do this. It's not that they're resisting it at all. The other is that older adults are buying books in droves. People who are in the fourth quarter of their life, who are grandparents now, because it gives them a chance to, when they're looking at their story, how they want to live the rest of it, and,
Mm.
and their desire to show up better, the story how they want to be remembered. And so oftentimes I see, when I'm at different venues, they're shocked at how many older adults are buying books.
Mm.
It's the wisdom of their journey has informed their desire to engage at a higher level emotionally, because they know how they showed up and they want to show up better for their children and their grandchildren, and they're looking for the tools.
That's good.
And then I would say the third thing has been how, as you pointed out, universal the story of emotionally healthy relationships is, and the that are faced are not just American. And I knew that, but when I was in Nairobi, the team I'm now working with now on marketing and all of those things, Archer Digital was doing a lot of work with me, and I was blessed to meet this brother Alex, who owns the company, and we did an event in Nairobi, and he was a moderator, and my friend Faith. And when we opened for Q&A, the first thing someone said was, a man said, "I never knew until today how similar the African American experience is to the African experience. I was different, but learning tonight how these challenges are not just ours, but it's good to know that other people are working on these things too in a totally different cultural context." And it was beautiful to hear that, because it said what I knew, that the human experience is the human experience, and that we all have a deeper desire to feel love by our fathers, our mothers, and people in our lives, to experience hugs, to hear the word of you, and to live into models of loving relationships that are healthy, and learning how to do that better. And so I would say the third one was that, realizing that the stories and the intention of this book and the takeaways that you wrote transcend the context that they were written in a Western American context, and it's resonating with people in other parts of the world. And that really gave me joy. They organized a packed event with people who never heard of me, didn't know me. They came on the work, friends, and we did that at an art gallery. And which was such a gift from God, because you know how much I love art, right? And we packed out the gallery. They had to put chairs outside.
Wow.
And they brought bus loads of teenagers on soccer teams. There were a number of single parent moms who
this was in Nairobi?
Yes, this was in Nairobi. And we affirmed and spoke to the moms, and I got to hang out with some of the young men and the older adults who brought them. And it was just really a blessing to see how the content that we created together, those tools and those stories are now being received in other parts.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. I can't wait to see the pictures that you have.
Yeah. So Alex and Archer, they'll be sharing more video content and photos over time. In fact, they'll be taking this video and creating the clips and giving people some key takeaways. But they were one of the gifts that came out of sabbatical.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's the team I'm working with now.
Okay.
But thank you so much for doing it. It's so good to see your smiling face.
Yours too.
Your voice and do what we do, except do it live. So I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and I'll see you the later part of January.
All right.
All
Love you, fam.
Love you too, fam.
All right.
All right. Peace.